All right, news of the day, and then I want to talk about rebuilds. Okay. Chris Kreider's been fined $5,000 for the elbow to the nose on Pedersen. I said Peterson. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. I'm kind of surprised they even gave him a fine. It's $5,000. It's fine. We'll move on. After the game, the bloodied victim said he's not a dirty player. I don't consider that to be a big deal. To which Montreal fans all went, yeah! Roussel's out for the season, however. So on the hit that got Lemieux somehow banished from the game. Because I don't know what else he's supposed to do in that play. Roussel hurt his knee, and he's done for the year. Travis Greener said, yeah, he's done. So that's it. Brandstrom's going to make his debut tonight for the Ottawa Senators. So if you want to see what you got back for Mark Stone, tonight's the night. I thought Brandstrom was ready to start this season for Vegas anyways. I was kind of surprised Vegas didn't keep him up. I'm still surprised Vegas let him go. I understand Mark Stone is this big star. I really think that Vegas is first with Suzuki and now with Brandstrom. You're giving up guys who may very well be a future core of another team, or part of a future core of another team. And I do wonder about the long-term success of Vegas past this year. But I get it. I get why George McPhee's doing it. I totally understand. Cam Ward's back, so Colleen Delia sent back down to the American League, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Delia will probably be the backup next year to whoever sticks around, and it's likely going to be Crawford, I would think, if Crawford's able to maintain health. I'd be very nervous, though, if Crawford's the starter and Delia's the backup, considering Crawford's concussion history. All right, news of the day aside, I want to talk a little bit about rebuilds, because I mentioned this morning, I read an article from Jason Botchford, and there's a lot of comments like, what's the article about? It's about how the Canucks are in this rebuild and how publicly Jim Benning keeps saying that, you know, we're trying to make the playoffs. What else is he supposed to say? We're trying not to make the playoffs? So here's a compilation of teams that are currently out of the playoffs and how many points they are out of the playoffs. At the bottom, I put 4 teams that were considered to be rebuilding this season, or, in the case of Columbus, might be rebuilding next season. Columbus in the second wild card, Arizona's in the second wild card, so they seem to be coming out of that rebuild, right? The Islanders rebuild? What rebuild? They don't need a rebuild. They lost Tavares. You guys, we're in the playoffs. They're number 2 in the Metro. The number 1 wild card is that bunch of jerks in Carolina. Now, the Canucks are 8 points out. The Oilers are 6 points out. Buffalo's 12. New Jersey's 20. You guys get it. You can see it all on the board. My point is simple. So for the teams that are sitting outside the playoffs, especially teams on this side of the board who are clearly done. So these are teams that are just done. Buffalo's 2-6-2 in their last 10. The Rangers are 2-3-5. New Jersey's 2-7-1. Detroit's 1-7-2. The Ottawa Senators 1-8-1. Vancouver's 3-5-2. And LA is 2-6-2. These are teams that are sitting outside the playoffs, and they continually play their way further out of the playoffs. Now, the gist of the article is from Botchford is Jim Benning doesn't know what he's doing. That's 100% the gist of the entire article. Which all I can think, with my subscription to The Athletic is, I know he feels that way. I get it. Here's the thing. Playoff droughts. Carolina, it's been 9 years since they were in the playoffs. They've gone 9 seasons of non-playoffs. So this would be an amazing break from that this year. Buffalo, it's been 7 years. It has to be upsetting for Buffalo fans to see that once again, they will fall short of the playoffs. Arizona, 6 years. Vancouver, it's been 3. This is going to be year number 4 with the missing this season. Dallas, 2 years. Looks like they should get in this year. Detroit, 2 years. This will be year 3. Florida, 2 years. I know for Florida fans, it's like, it feels like it's been a lot longer. We'll get to Florida. This will be year 3. The Islanders, 2 years. Oddly enough, the rebuild's over because they're in the playoffs. And nobody saw that coming in the offseason. Now, series win droughts. If you're talking about a team that hasn't won a series, that's where you get into the ones that really need to fix things. Florida hasn't won a round in 21 seasons. This will be 22. Columbus, 17 years, so since they came into the league. And this is seasons in the playoffs of not advancing. So these are straight losses. Yeah, Toronto 13, Buffalo 11, Colorado 10, Carolina 9, Vancouver 7, Arizona 6, New Jersey 6, Philadelphia 6. At least I think that's what this could be years. Let me think about it. 21, carry the 1, divided by, negative with. Yeah, you guys know what I mean. The point still stands, which is these teams have had trouble getting out of the first round, right? Now, for Toronto, they're considered to be a contender, so they may very well take themselves off this board. How many of these other teams are pretty much guaranteed to win in the first round? Carolina, I'll give you Carolina, because Carolina very rarely gets eliminated in the first round. They're weird that way. They're a team that either just misses the playoffs by a lot, or they seem to go to the conference finals or the Stanley Cup final. It's weird. But other than that, you got Florida, Columbus. Is Columbus going to win around with the way they're playing right now? Well, if they play Tampa, probably not. Toronto, they're against Boston. Are they going to win around this year? I'm of the mind that it's a 50-50 proposition between the two right now. I understand why people think Boston's going to win it. People who think it's going to be a sweep are insane, but, people are right to have their insanity, and they can do that. Buffalo, not going to break their drought. Colorado, they're not even likely to make the playoffs. They could. They are still within 3 points. Carolina, as I said. Vancouver, well, they're not going to break their drought. Arizona, could they win around when they get in there? Maybe. But again, New Jersey and Philly are on that drought list too. So the gist of the article from this is that Benning doesn't know what he's doing. So it starts off with Quinn Hughes. So what is his number one fear? That Quinn Hughes is going to play 10 or more games this year, and it's going to affect the expansion draft with Seattle. This is called overanalyzing everything. And really? Because seriously, and then he says, nobody, where is it? It's in here. The entire city would rather him play 0 games than 11. That's not true. That's 100% not true. Although, I'm not in the city of Vancouver, so technically, maybe everybody in the city of Vancouver would rather not see Quinn Hughes at all than see him 11 times. He says that the injury to Quinn Hughes is a blessing because it means he won't play 10 or more games, which, fine. But to say that, well, he gets mad because Jim Benning wouldn't say for sure that he'll play less than 10 games. Why would he say that? Why are you going to sit down with a kid and go, hey, we like you, we think you're ready for the NHL, we're going to set you up. That contract won't kick in until next year, though. Yeah, you probably would have gone back to university. Oh, you haven't signed that yet? So you're definitely not signing the contract today. Gosh darn it. And I said this at the time it was signed, and Brian Burke said it too. When they sit down with these players and their agents, part of what you tell the agent is he will have a chance to play every game after signing this contract and burn a year off this contract. He will be given that chance. You can't sit down with the agent and the player and say that, and then go to the press a couple days later and go, he's not playing. He's not playing. I'm not burning a year of that contract. Because I guarantee 5 minutes later, the agent's calling going, pardon? And then you're already souring a relationship you just started. And honestly, the Canucks, we lost Lucas Spiza to the Vegas Golden Knights. We lost Lucas Spiza. Who are we losing off the blue line? Who's this fantastic blue liner that by having to protect Quinn Hughes, which is a no-brainer, who's this fantastic kid on the blue line that we're going to lose as a result? Because then in the rest of the article, he basically talks about how the team is crap. And he has this nickname for Louis Eriksson. Honestly, he calls them little things because they talk about how Louis Eriksson, when he's not scoring the game, he's scoring goals. He still does little things in the game that keep him on the roster. I don't have a problem with that, but apparently he does. And that Eriksson being pulled out of the lineup means Green's done with Benning, and I'm thinking, no. It means Eriksson's played his way off the roster. But, it means it's the first sign they wanted out of his contract. Again, media speculation is crazy, right? But one thing I try not to do on this channel, and I've never done, is speak for a general manager. I've never said, let's say with the Louis Eriksson thing, you would not have heard me say yesterday, Louis Eriksson's going to be a healthy scratch. The Canucks are souring on his contract. I think the Canucks have probably been trying to trade that contract for a while. I think it's like Bobby Ryan in Ottawa. Yeah, you don't want to eat the salary. The thing is, at the time that he signed that contract, Louis Eriksson had scored 30 goals. Louis Eriksson was a pretty good forward, and the Canucks were not the only team that made him an offer. But because the Canucks got him, because there were a lot of Canuck fans and a lot that thought that, hey, Eriksson had good chemistry with the Sedins in international competitions. Why wouldn't that work at the NHL level? And I was one of the few that, even at the time, I'm like, I don't know, this doesn't necessarily work. But, I thought, good, I hope it does. Anyways, it's easy to revise it, and yeah. He talks about Granlund, Mott, how Granlund was pulled out of the lineup, and Mott being played. They talk about Goodbranson. They point out that Markstrom has more assists than Sutter. Oh, okay. What do we do to get EP going? Because I can't stand seeing this. And then they point out how Mott has more shots since the All-Star break than Pettersson. Yeah, I said Peterson. Of course he does. Has anybody looked at how every time Elias touches the puck, there's probably 2 or 3 guys on him? Because the Canucks don't have any options. And then they talk about putting him back with Goldobin. I guess they're ignoring the fact that Goldobin's just been a black hole out there. And then this is what drives me nuts. Is not only calling Eriksson little things, which is just very unprofessional. Ryan Spooner, he calls silver spoons. Why? And I'm asking a serious question here. Why is it I don't understand it. I don't understand giving somebody nicknames like that. And then this is a guy too who's going to be sitting and interviewing the Canucks. I have never said anything on this channel here that I would sit down in a room of media, if I ever had. I'm not saying I'd ever have that chance. I'm just using that as an example, where I would have the courage to say, "Hey, Mr. Benning," when he could have read something like this that I would have said, or if he'd seen in a video me just tearing him to pieces. I did a video on the career of Jim Benning. I was ready to tear him down. I didn't think he'd done a really bad job. And it's funny because, again, people just want to crap all over it. But on the one hand, he says they don't have enough leadership to get through the rebuild. And then on the other, he's crapping on Eriksson and some of the veterans on the team. Well, which is it? Do you want the veterans to play so to protect the kids and keep the kids out of the lineup, or do you want the kids to play without the veteran leadership? And then Jonathan Dahlen, and again, and I know Canuck fans are all worked up into a lather, and I wondered where this was coming from. Well, now I know, because Dahlen is going to be better than Johnsson for the Leafs, which is a surprise to everybody because nobody expected Johnsson to be this good as he's been this year, and it's been 1 year. So since it's 1 year, we don't know how his entire career is going to pan out, but clearly based on 1 year, Johnsson's a 20-25 goal guy forever. And because Dahlen had better numbers at the same stage in his career in Sweden, that means he's going to be a 30-goal player. He's going to be a 60-point guy. And he would have done it in Vancouver, and they're just stupid. And then he says in here, maybe the Canucks are spot on and Dahlen never becomes Johnsson, but the production was good enough, and so his pedigree to get a game or two late in the year to see where he's really at. The Griffin Molino treatment. Griffin Molino was an NCAA free agent that they picked up. He played 5 games at the end of the year. They were games that didn't mean anything, and then he was gone. Dahlen got traded because he wasn't happy about his role in the American League, and he was not happy about his role within the organization. And the idea that, well, just call him up then. That didn't work very well with Ho-Sang in New York, so I'm not sure if it if they're not happy with his play in Utica, they're probably not going to be happy with his play in Vancouver. Anyways. And then should there be more panic over the next wave of Canucks prospects? Yes, because by all means we need to panic over all of that. It's so long. This article is just huge. And then Benning talked about how the Canucks are 5 wins short of the playoffs right now. And he's right. And they're like, well, you shouldn't be looking for 5 wins. It should be how do the Canucks get 15 more wins? Because that's what it's going to take to be a great team. This is my point. This is my point in all of this. All of these teams are missing the playoffs, or 1 or 2 of these teams are going to knock somebody else out of the playoffs. Okay, we're in agreement there. You have 31 GMs that are trying to win the Stanley Cup. And you have some guys who are selling off and picking up draft picks. Everybody talks a lot about Gorton and with the New York Rangers, and just he's got all these great draft picks. Fine. But the results still aren't in on Hedl and Anderson. We don't know yet how solid a drafter he is. We've already seen with Benning some guys that he's picked up as free agents, guys he's picked up as late draft picks, who are legit NHLers. And we know that there's a guy over in the KHL named Nikita Trampkin, come on back, who could help solidify that blue line if they can talk him into coming back. Now, again, the Canucks are competing with a lot of teams here. They're ahead of the Ducks. Think about that. If I told you before the season started, the Ducks are going to be behind Vancouver, people would be surprised. Not only that, but Vancouver was resoundingly picked to finish 31st out of 31 teams this year by everybody, including myself. The Canucks have been better than that this season. Now, they've fallen off lately, but to turn around and say, oh, well, whatever. And then the funny thing is, he throws in as well. He throws in as well. He believes they're building towards a Stanley Cup contender. But he rips apart every single move Benning's made. And yet, you could do that with every GM of every team that's below the playoff line right now. You could. You could sit down, you could look at moves these guys have made that have cost the team playoffs. Maybe it's cost the team the future. But we didn't expect the Canucks to be in the playoffs. It is a rebuild. And part of the reason that, we worry is because of Linden being out. But it is a rebuild. And maybe Linden didn't agree with how to do the rebuild compared to with what Aquilini was trying to get going. But it is. And to me, this has been my argument the whole way through. The Canucks' problem has been that blue line. In order for them to be an NHL level playoff team, they have to fix that blue line. I think the depth moves they've made up front, I think that's been solid. Has Beagle underachieved? Nah, Beagle's what he is, and he's had injury problems too. But for me with Vancouver, they're another year away. And at no point this season did I say, "Oh no, they're good." And and there's comments pointed out in this as well that he doesn't talk about he doesn't talk about the Roussel injury at all. He's on this Dolan thing and everything. I don't know. I think rebuilding a team, I think it's very difficult. I think that it takes some time. And I think that when people say, well, just tear it down. Just go out and get a bunch of draft picks. It's not that easy. And sometimes those teams that have a ton of draft picks, and I need to do a video on this on some point, on sometimes just picking up a bunch of draft picks doesn't work. Sometimes you pick up 10 draft picks in a draft, and maybe one of them reaches the NHL, and none of them are impact players. Maybe 3 of them reach the NHL, and none of them are impact players. It is tough. And I don't envy GMs in Canadian markets because they get eviscerated regularly. One article on The Athletic as well that's interesting, I haven't completely gone through yet, is that Keith Gretzky would be a good general manager for Edmonton. Might be a hard sell, however, on the people of Edmonton if that's what they come up with for their general manager. So, again, a lot of turmoil. Another one of those years. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.